Okay, so here is Project 3, Part 1. Okay, so Project 3 is the same as your other projects. You're maintaining a song database. The only difference is we are going to do with classes and multiple files. Okay, so and then a few other changes as we go through. We'll talk about some of those things like data validation. So here's Part 1. I have a folder called Project 3, Part 1, and you should try and do the same. Keep them organized. And in here, if you look, I have 4 files. Okay, this is your part 1. Video.h, video.cpp, videolist.h, and videolist.cpp. So you should have your song.h, song.cpp, songlist.h, and songlist.cpp. So video.h, if you look here, starting from the top, we have pragma once, which you should have in your header file to say that include this file only one time. And then we start with all your header files. I like to include all the header files in this header file. So if you look on the right hand side, I'll open up video.cpp. So you can look at both of them at the same time. Okay. So video.h has all of these header files. And if you look in video.cpp, I've included video.h on the side, right? So this video.h that's included will include all of this code in here, which will include all the header files. Okay. Then my constant for maxcar, I have that here. I have my class video with, put a blank line, class video with private data members, title and year. The same thing that you had before, right, in your struct, 2 data members, but this is private. And then we have all your constructors. This is all with regards to the video class, single video. So default constructor, constructor with parameters, a destructor, mutator functions to set, accessor functions to get, and print. I have 2 prints if you look at it. One prints a video, again, an example of an overloaded function. The other prints with a parameter. The parameter is the out file, OF stream, because I want to write to a file. At the end of your program, it should write and save all the data to the file and exit, and the same file as the input file. Okay, and it should do it at the very end. We'll see how to do that. But this takes care of writing the function, just to write it. Okay, and here on the right hand side is video.cpp. Video.cpp essentially goes through and does the implementation for all of these functions that you see on the left hand side. All these functions are implemented. All these functions are implemented in this file. Okay, so starting from the top, include video.h. Here's the default constructor. Here is the constructor with parameters. Here's the destructor, which has nothing in it. Okay, and here is the set function. That's the string copy. Here's the set year function. That's an assignment operator. String copy is for strings, assignment operator for a number. Get, again, string copy from title to return title. So if you did your homework 1, you should see that it's the same as your task, right? Print video with no parameters prints to the screen. See the cout? Print to file with this out file prints to the file. That is the difference between these 2 functions. And we have both of them because we want to print to the screen and we want to write to the file at the very end. And when you write to the file, it has to be exactly the same way as you read it. So the format of this, the way if you use colons, then you should use colon here, not a semicolon. Depends on whatever you used. Okay, so those are the 2 files that we have here. Now let's go take a look at videolist.h on this side and videolist.cpp on this side. So video list on this side, this should be pragma once. So let me get rid of this syntax so it's not confusing. Insert pound pragma once. That's all you need. I'm going to get rid of this last line here. Okay, so pragma once, just like you had in the other one, you have include video.h because this is going to create an array of videos. So you must include video.h here. And if you notice here, I have included videolist.h because that will say take everything from here, put it in here on the top, which is what is needed because all the class information has to be here in the videolist.cpp, which is what I have on the right hand side. Videolist.cpp. And then we write the implementation of all of these functions in the CPP file on the right hand side. Okay, so the list of videos, the list is an array of the videos. I have the cap here at 20, count, which is keeps track of the number of elements in my array in a class of its own. Constructor, we have two constructors, a default constructor which initializes count to 0, nothing else. So if you look here, count to 0, there's my default constructor. Don't forget your class with the scope resolution operator. Constructor from file. Remember you used to load from file before? Now you do that in your constructor. So if you create an object and pass the file name to it, it should call this constructor, and it should essentially start out and say, okay, I'm going to read from the file. So we start with count equals 0. We have ifstream in file, a temporary video, temporary variables, open the file. File name comes in as a parameter here, and I'll show you it is coming from main. Eventually, when we get there, we're not going to do main in this phase. You just be aware that file name is coming in as a parameter. Open the file. If it has an error, if it doesn't open, error message. If not, this is the same as reading from what you did before, reading from the file. All that part is the same. Populate a video. The only difference is this part where you have to call the get setters to set the variable for a video, and then pass it to this add video function, which is right here. And it takes this video object and adds it to my array and increments count. We've talked about this, right? That's what that does. So that is what my constructor does. So now it's part of a constructor. When you create an object from a file, it calls this constructor and loads from the file. Okay. So then we have the destructor, which has nothing in it. And then we have the database functions, add video, search, and print. So if you go here, I have my add video down here. Add video is just this one line. It receives the video from here, and it simply adds it to its array and increments count. Search has temporary variables, reads into the temporary variable from the user. Then we have the getter function. For each element, I get it, put it in a temp title. Then we compare the temp title that we just got from the array element with the search title and see if it is not equal to null. That means the video exists, we print it. So it's a little bit of a roundabout way, but that's what we get for data encapsulation. So you can simply compare list of I dot, temp title, or just list of I dot title. You can compare it. You have to get it into a temp char array, which is why I have the temp char array. Then you compare that temp char array with the char array that you read from the user to see if the search title is there in the temp title. If it is not equal to null, that means if it's there, then you print it. Otherwise, you don't do anything and you just keep searching. Okay, print list goes through and prints the video. Notice I haven't, well, that's the other function. Okay, so print list simply goes through a for loop, I equals 0, I less than count, and calls print video from the other class, and it just prints it. Okay, so once you're done with this, how do you compile this? Okay, you can't quite compile it. You can compile the two files and make sure there are no errors. So G++, you have two CPP files, right? All you have to do is compile the CPP files. -wal -g video.cpp videolist.cpp -o main. Okay, -wal -g lists all the CPP files. Right now we only have two of them, and -o. Now you will get an error like this which says undefined reference to main. It says there's no main, which is fine, but you shouldn't get other errors. If you haven't done your prototypes or your implementation right, you will see other errors. If you don't see any errors, and if this is all you see, then you're good for part 1. So that is part 1, where we create two header files, video.h, videolist.h, and two CPP files for those. So try that, and I will see you in part 2.